I think we're live now. Welcome to Canada Bangladesh Social Justice Action Research Alliance. We organize critical and courageous conversations about local and global issues connected to equity, fairness, and social justice. We use these conversations to facilitate critical literacy for Bangladeshi students and marginalized communities across the world. I think we all will recognize the fact that Bangladesh, along the rest of the world, we don't always have a very spontaneous and thriving space of critical thinking. And the kind of time where we live, if we do not learn how to think for ourselves, it's very difficult to live in a peaceful and coherent world. So this is one of our initiatives. The central goal of these conversations is to contribute in creating the kind of critical consciousness that will ensure social justice for all. I often quote Fannie Lou Hamer, a very prominent African American civil rights activist and a remarkable Black woman. In the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, nobody is free until everybody is free. So that's the motivation of organizing these conversations. Today, my guest is Zainah Binte Habib, Syeda Zainah Binte Habib, founder and CEO of FlexBase and Bling, founder of Aid for Women. Zaina is an inspiring woman entrepreneur, and she is disrupting the fashion and design scene of Bangladesh. I'm looking forward to having a very engaging conversation. Zaina, very much, and thank you very much for making some time for us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, the first question to you that how did you get into the scene of fashion, design, and whatever you're doing right now?
I think it was called inspiration when I started off because I was a very heavily academic person, and when I was studying back in England, I was volunteering for the terminally ill, and it was very much a part of the things that I also enjoyed doing. So when I grew up a little bit more, and when I came back to Bangladesh, I took a sabbatical from my academics for about 6 to 7 months, and then I started joining causes as per suggestions by my seniors, especially that you should take some kind of part in a cause that I believe in. She was telling me all about it, and I joined it. It was called Against the Wind, and it was all about shattering the stereotypes of beauty. So when I was a part of that campaign, I felt that the ability to tell one story in spite of not being the conventional sense of beautiful, especially in a Bangladeshi context, because in Bangladesh people generally just stereotype beauty to be either slim, fair, tall, that kind of category. And each of us, we were different. We were not necessarily the stereotypical beautiful person there. So we were just telling stories about our struggles and also our triumphs and all of that. So that was one of those initiatives that did inspire me to take it forward. So fast forward, I think my main journey began in 2019 when I started working, and I worked for a few places, including some schools. I decided, no, I want to do something of my own. I want to do something of my own. And then 2020, the pandemic outbreak took place. And I remember that that is what inspired me to start FlexBiz. And from FlexBiz, all of these initiatives followed. I would say that my most sustainable venture would be FlexBiz because I started off with this vision to help people during the lockdown. People were suffering from new businesses. They were promoting their businesses and then they had to close down. And then they didn't have platforms that would help them as such because people had to pay for a lot of platforms to register, show, and procreate their business contents and all of those things. So I thought, why not create something for men, women, and beyond, so that we could have a fruitful platform that would discuss what their initiatives are all about. So FlexBiz began as a community group. It was, alhamdulillah, very much appreciated by people. About 500 people joined in the span of 12 hours, and that was, I think, my source of encouragement that no, there is something here. I think I may have started something. So, I just went with it. Then, when 2.5K members joined, which was in the span of a month or so, I found it quite challenging to keep up with their inquiries. And, I realized that it's just one person. So now I need to grow and expand. So I decided that let's build a team. And when I started building a team, I first of all looked for some co-partners. And before that happened, I started thinking of some services to be brought to FlexBiz. And with that started legal aid, free legal aid. One of my friends came on board to support it. And he was helping a lot of people at that point of time, whoever knocked for some legal inquiries. Because during the pandemic, domestic violence and other issues started increasing rapidly. So he was one of those few people who really appreciated the whole concept of FlexBiz, and he came forward. So that was that. And then I remember one of my friends, he now works at TikTok in Singapore. He came on board as a business consultant, and he's into data startups and analytics. So that was another key person to come on board and support business consultancy. Then we have free telecounseling and telemedicine. So that was another initiative that I was able to build. I mean, establish the groundwork for FlexBiz. So those were the services that we started off with, and then obviously I built this team. And when the team came on board, I pitched the concept of diversity to them, that I want to have this campaign that celebrates beauty from all walks of life. And it doesn't necessarily just mean women, it could mean men, women, and also beyond the conventional set of genders. So why not, we go with that. So everybody loved the idea, and everybody seemed to be in sync with it. And so we went ahead with it post lockdown, and it was exactly a year ago, August 29th, 2020. We had this diversity campaign by FlexBiz, and it was well received. And since then, I don't think I've looked back. It's been one campaign after the other, one shoot after the other, and now, Alhamdulillah, it's a marketing firm with facilities that hopefully will change the scene of branding in Bangladesh. That's the aim. I apologize, sir, but you're on mute. I was just texting you that you're on mute. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
No
Yes,
problem.
thank you very much. Okay.
Mhm.
Zaina, I mean, I said that, uh, sorry, it's a beautiful experience, that understanding that, we all are humans and we do very silly mistakes. Anyway, so I said that, I may have a few challenging questions about marketing later on,
Yeah.
understanding its operation, and what have you. Um, but we hear very romantic lines like beauty is in the eye of beholder, or beauty is
Mm.
skin deep, and what have you. But the question, if you think about these things systematically, philosophically, critically, you start questioning what shapes the perception of beauty of the beholder. I mean, if you think about the operation of capitalism, is that one of the things a lot of the scholars have identified, that capitalism does not essentially operate on quote unquote institutional framework. It also works on our psyche. It works on
Mm.
our spirit. It works on our desire. I mean, particularly for me, it was very depressing when I came to realize, being a researcher in social science, that, things that I desire, they're also capitalistically produced and reproduced in many ways, right? So
Yes.
you have lived in Bangladesh, you have lived in Britain, you have studied there too. Like, I'm sure that when you lived in Britain, your experience of being a Bangladeshi there was a little bit different. Dare I say, I don't know what your experience has been. I can only assume from my understanding of sociology, of social realities and what have you. Um, in Bangladesh, I'm sure that you perhaps had some kind of social circle, social capital, a network that, oh, Zaina is just not Zaina. Zaina is someone's daughter, someone's sisters in a particular social location.
Mm.
A lot of the people, when they go in a place like Britain, they lose all of that. So you start finding yourself in a place that you probably did not find in Bangladesh. Could you speak to that experience, that how your perception about the world and the perception of beauty was influenced by your experience of living in Britain, studying in Britain, and also living and growing up in Bangladesh?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question. I would say that beauty to me is individuality. And individuality, I think I grew to embrace my individuality when I was in Britain because I had the liberty to grow. I had the liberty to find myself all over again because I was only around 16 years of age when I went to England and I had to start afresh, as you just mentioned.
Mm.
And I had to make friends, and the education system was obviously a little different, even though we've been to English medium schools here and we followed the same curriculum, but the whole system was very different. The approach of it was very different. Uh, but yes, I would say that in many ways, England is still very much home for me because having been raised by an English grandmother, I was well acquainted with the culture there. So it wasn't completely foreign to me, but I grew the most when I was there. And beauty to me came as I feel it was confidence that made me feel beautiful from within. And that was the country that allowed me to grow to my full potential. So,
Okay, okay.
come.
So let me ask you probably a slightly a bit challenging question. Is
Mhm,
so say that your experience of growing up in Britain, having a kind of social circle where you were not a complete stranger,
mhm.
um, and also having been exposed to the kind of education system, as you have mentioned, that English medium school back in Bangladesh, and obviously you have O levels, A levels in Britain too. So it's pretty much exactly the same syllabus, in two different locations. Um, but then I will problematize by saying that in Bangladesh, if you go to English medium schools, you may not know your own culture, history, heritage in the academic setup adequately, but you certainly know a lot of the British culture, history, and heritage, and what have you. Now, people who study this phenomena of like, okay, countries that once used to be a British colony or an European colony, what have you, so they have physically left us, but psychologically, a lot of our beauty standard or perception, for example, if you are fair complexioned in Bangladesh, you enjoy a certain social perception that, oh, you're beautiful because yes, you're light. I'm sure that you remember it was well circulated in the social media that probably some magazine did the blunder of saying, oh, black but beautiful, like
Yes.
somebody who is complexion, like dark complexion. If you even see the words black, dark, like when we say the dark history of humanity, the black episodes of our, so even the very language you use, it sort of privileges one thing over the other. Now, how do you think that your perception of beauty, when you say individuality, to what extent do you think it is shaped by what you have been exposed to what extent you have actually looked at it critically and have gone deep into it to problematize the different perceptions of beauty?
With all due respect, I do feel that beauty is more diverse in the West than it is here in the
Hmm.
subcontinent. We have
Hmm.
a certain set of conventional ideas as to what beauty is in Bangladesh, especially, I would say, than back in the West. Because now in the West, it's all about making yourself relevant, and brown girls now are very relevant there. So people are more, I feel, open to the idea of how the Asian conventional idea of beauty is. And they want to know more about our culture. They want to know more about how we live and the things that we believe in. Here, there is somewhat of a preconceived notion as to how life must be like in the West. And if I may say so, I probably found it a lot more challenging to adjust here, having been abroad, adjust back here than the other way around. I found it a lot easier to adjust there because everybody was open to the idea of different conventional ideas of not just beauty but life, culture, education, your whole perspective of life in general. People were much more open there, and now I think to also add to the positive element in Bangladesh, people are also now trying to understand how life is really like in the West and how life, is different here. So that change is also coming. It's not that it isn't, but I would say it's been a more of a recent change. Like, for example, even 2 3 years ago, there could have been some conversations I would have with a certain group of people, and the whole conversation outcome would be different back then as to what it is now, because of the level of awareness also that has taken place, especially during and post this pandemic. I feel like knowledge has really expanded. People may have found more time to read, or people may have found more time to engage with contents that would diversify the whole concept and also the whole process of acceptance. So, yeah, I think that would be my answer, that it wasn't as tough as it seemed. I would say it was easier back there, but it's becoming easier here as well with time. Awareness, I
Mhm.
think, is playing a very crucial part in awakening that level of diversification.
Come back to this question a bit later. Now,
Yeah.
what actually motivated you in Bangladesh? I'm very happy to see that you have taken initiatives of actually mainstreaming diversity. Whether it is skin color, whether it is different ways men and women look. We are familiar with body shaming.
Yeah.
We are familiar with that, how the stereotypical perception of beauty has contributed in internalizing inferiority in a lot of young women and men. So, what was particularly tipping point for you where you felt like, I gotta go and do something here in order to diversify, mainstream the diversity and inclusivity in your design or your fashion work?
Okay, this is interesting because I would have to then share a very personal story. When I was younger, the size zero trend took place in Bangladesh, where if you weren't skinny, you were not attractive. If you weren't extremely lean, you weren't, considered to be the, stereotypical beautiful person. And even men, I remember, they were aiming towards becoming leaner. And this was, I think, around 2007 or 8 that, it was most prominent in Bangladesh, that is. So from that time to now everybody wants to be thick, everybody wants to be curvaceous, and all of that has also changed with time. And as a teenager, even I went through that phase of, trying to lose weight and trying to look a certain way, whereas, I was not naturally made to be a skinny person. I was a little bit ahead of my time, maybe biologically. So I looked a certain way, and I found it difficult to adjust back then, and I was subjected to body shaming myself. And now suddenly I have been told that I have that conventional, beautiful kind of body frame that people want. And I used to think that, how did that happen? Because, I used to be a person that they used to body shame. Now they want to be like me. How did that change take place? And then obviously the media has played a part. Obviously movies have done their magic. Obviously, Instagram has played a huge role in changing the whole perception of the ideal body type. So when I saw that in the span of a decade or so, just a little bit more of little more than a decade, people now, don't like what they used to like back then. They like the opposite of what, used to be trendy. So that's when I decided, we need to make acceptance happen for all types of bodies out there, because people are falling sick trying to, either gain weight or look leaner, but they're not actually sticking to their right body frame, and they are trying to fit into all these examples, and they're giving into bullying for no reason. So, why not take initiatives that make the whole perception of inclusivity come to life, especially in Bangladesh? That, even if you're dusky, even if you're fair, even if you're slender, even if you're a bit on the fuller side, you are as beautiful as each other, and there is no comparison. Why not? Because I've had friends who are supremely plus size, supremely lean. So, what does that mean? Does it mean that they don't deserve to model? They don't deserve to be in the forefront? No, they're talented. So, why only put them in the category of how their body is? Bodies can change. Um, there could be so many reasons why the human body changes, and it doesn't even have to be subjected to the gender that we're ascribed with. So yeah, that was one of the reasons why I took the initiative of going ahead with body positivity as a concept, that if you want to be inclusive, then you have to be accepting. And that's how I think social acceptance would gradually take place, because if one person does it, at least 10 more will do it as well.
Yes. Now, let's say in order to contextualize that, you have given example of Instagram. Um, you've given example of social media. At the same time, what we know, it's a phenomena that it's a actually doctors have identified it, is that and their research on it is that uh, Instagram or Facebook or what have you, they give you different kinds of filter that you can look like this or you can look like that, using particular filters, right? And what has happened is that people have gone under knife, have gone under surgery to look a certain way, which the doctors, social scientists are concerned about. Now, for instance, if I tell you specifically about technology, that, okay, if I have this particular filter, this is going to make me look, um, the words that, is used to explain somebody is, beautiful, or somebody is desirable or attractive. Now, does it mean that in a way, and I will quote a particular book, that came in 90s, by Naomi Wolf, The Beauty Myth, where Naomi has wonderfully outlined that the Madison Avenue, I mean, the advertising industry in the United States, it has always constructed beauty as a model that can never be accomplished and attained, therefore inflicting a kind of insecurity and um, incompleteness in us, so that we always run after that ever elusive, ever receding kind of beauty ideal that you will never be able to accomplish. But by the advertising industry, if it is capable of inflicting that perpetual insecurity in us, we'll want to be thinner or leaner or curvaceous, or having biceps or abs and what have you. Because if you were content with yourself, you wouldn't buy all those products that I will sell to you, to saying, oh, buy this product and you'll be this. Oh, do this, you'll be do this, right? So it means the beauty standard has a direct connection to the profit motive of the companies. Now, in a situation like this, when you have billions of dollars of industry invested to inflict insecurity in us, how do we collectively create consciousness? I'll give you a concrete example. Let's say you have Fair and Lovely. Worldwide, the skin whitening product is that eight women around the world spend $8 billion. $8 billion. In Bangladesh, we used to call that Fair and Lovely. And they're very clever. They're very clever with their words. In the beginning, it was, Fair and Lovely. But now, when that started problematizing, when people started talking about it, oh, now it's Glow and Lovely. How is it different? So, do you think is that a young girl or boy in high school, bombarded with this content media, is capable of fighting this uphill battle, psychological battle, capitalistic battle? So, in that case, how do we problematize beauty at a mass scale?
See, that's funny, because when you say glow and lovely, is it even
Mhm.
grammatically correct? It's a state of panic. It's a response that suddenly we decided, as part of Fair and Lovely, no offense intended, that okay, we are being racist, we are being extremely prejudiced towards a certain type of people out there. So let's just change the name. We don't have to bother if it makes sense or not. We just have to change it from fair to something else. So it's that whole misconception of what beauty is. It just goes back to this cultural misogyny that's deeply embedded within us. Because why are people still buying Glow and Lovely. I know that people are still buying Glow and Lovely. I've seen my helping hand go and buy Glow and Lovely, and no matter how many times I've told her that it has got bleach in it, it's got some form of acidic chemical discomposition and all those things in it. Why are you doing this? You're harming your skin. But no, she'll turn around and tell me that because I want to be fair, or I want to be fair like your friends or like you. And then there is that element of capitalism again setting in, that just because we are uh, in a sort of better social standing in the eyes of the social hierarchy, that these people themselves, they think that if they use these products they can look like us, or be like us. So it goes deep into cultural misogyny that goes back eons now. I mean, we can't really change that overnight. And so yes, although it's a very it's a lovely initiative on Fair and Lovely's part, but they should have thought a little bit more before changing the name.
So when you say that, I'm thinking about something even funnier. It's funny. So in the 90s, I think the book Beauty Myth came probably 94 or 95, something around that time. I think at that time Naomi Wolf was probably in her mid 20s or early 20s. And if you Google her, you will find out Naomi Wolf is a white American white woman who show has all the kinds of stereotypical beauty standard, which is considered to be beautiful. You know what's paradoxical is that that book, when it came out, it had Nemuel's photo on the cover, right? So it's interesting that a black activist once asked Nemuel this question: that, hold on a second, you have written a book on beauty standard, beauty myth, but then the book has a big book cover that shows a model-esque, white, beautiful woman who is problematizing, contesting the effort of advertising industry, Madison Avenue, to inflict insecurity in the minds of millions and millions of women, right? In the United States. Um, so as you've just mentioned about your helping hand, you see, you and I have had the privilege of going to academic setups. You have gone to the UK to study the university. I had some opportunities too. So you and I had a long time to think about these things through, and we had our privileges. You and I
Yes,
sat with the social science textbooks, articles, and all the references that we give to think about these things. But think about women who do not have this kind of privileges. So they are subject to social forces. They are subject to social forces that if a woman is not fair, she has consequences. She has consequences. Your helping hand wanting to be fair like your friend or like you, um, will probably not associate with your friends, will not probably be, I don't know, this well, in some kind of union with a member of your, so it's easier for us to say that, hey, it has all this ingredients that is that can cause you have skin cancer. But I'm not in her shoes. I am not in her I don't, I mean, I will not, I mean, you and I have certain socio-economic location
yes,
to challenge it, to problematize it. And here is the tricky part. Also, have some kind of social acceptance that, oh, Firoz and Zaina are talking about the beauty standard. Firoz and Zaina are talking about, oh, there must be good human beings. But you see, you and I are gaining further social acceptance by discussing this
yes,
thing. But
yes,
a girl in my village, or your helping hand, when she goes back in her supremely disadvantaged socioeconomic location, she's not going to get it. They don't know how
no,
to use quote unquote ভদ্রলোকের ভাষা, quote unquote educated ভাষা to
yeah,
problematize it, right? So do you think that this beauty standard, these conversations are limited within the sphere of middle and upper middle class society, which is very small in size? Because if you look at the entire Bangladeshi women spectrum, they're not the majority. Most of the people are from the rural Bangladesh and all of that. So in a situation like that, I ask you this challenging question to you and me together, is that how can we be more mindful in bringing those people from the margin into this conversation and tell us that, okay, Firoz, shut up, go to the corner and let them speak. You have spoken enough. What can we do probably to make that happen, or do you think that is at all necessary?
I don't think it would be possible.
Mhm.
Why I say so is because we haven't yet reached that phase in time. Not in this subcontinent where people would actually be comfortable with the complexion that they're born with. I'm speaking about the people who are socially disadvantaged compared to us. They will not be open to the idea of, say, for example, living with dark skin. They will always try to lighten their skin tone. They will always try to, unfortunately, be in competition with those who are a little bit more privileged than themselves. They will always think about themselves as disadvantaged, even if times start changing. It just goes back into history. It is going to be something that they'll pass on to their children as well, because seeing them, their children will start practicing these beauty practices as well, beauty regimes. That okay, if mom could get a little fairer, then I could also get fairer, and so I should use what mom uses, because you know I use what my mom used when I was a teenager, especially. It's something that it's like a pattern of learned behavior. So now, even if Glow and Lovely has just happened now, they don't know what the meaning of glow is. They don't know what the meaning of fair was. They just applied something to get fairer, and now they're applying something to lighten their skin tone. Even if they change the whole idea of what fairness is to them, they still want to be forsha. So it's going to be something of a generational movement, and until and unless education is made more accessible to the underprivileged people in our rural areas, and unless other forms of awareness also takes place, and that can be done through the kind of contents that uh, we are trying to deliver. Not just me, but there are other people also working. Until and unless through technology we try to make that level of awareness take place, no changes are going to take place as such, because it's all learned behavior, it's all learned practices. It's like dal bhat now. Every single day everybody's going to be applying the same cream and the same beauty product, and it just passes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a quick question, from our audience. I think we always look for perfection, and society gives us the levels of perfection. We use editors and filters to make us like that. Absolutely. Very good question. Very good observation. My thought and question is it possible to remove these levels of perfection? Like, you're always given that elusive standard, right? I mean, when I take a photo with my camera or, what have you, is it possible for me, not to look for, oh, what's the angle that makes me look good? Or, I mean, how do I change my camera's ISO to um, look? A very good friend of mine often say that, who sees me uh, in more in other intimate circles, to say that obviously I'm a doctoral student. I research and I have to stay long hours up. So when my friend sees me in person, it'd say, "Oh my God, you haven't eaten, man. You haven't rested. Look at the bags around your eyes." But when my friend sees me in the camera, my friend would tell me, "Oh, your camera hides all the dark circles and everything." But it's deceptive. So I did a bit of research on that, and I found out that cameras are designed. And by the way, this is a research done by MIT University. Cameras are designed to make you look fairer than what you are. Cameras are designed to highlight, to actually, what's that English word? Accentuate the features that is considered to be beautiful in us anyway. So the question is that how are we to fight this filter fight, that no, I don't need this bloody filter. I am who I am. I am with my all flaws and beauties and brokenness. And how do you think it has something to do with the outer effort, or actually trying to understand us critically?
Where did filters even come from? It came from the concept of makeup. It came from the concept of looking like the magazine, or the, looking like models in the magazine, I mean, or models on billboards. So closest thing is, okay, say for example, a woman without a makeup, without any bit of makeup, I mean, takes a selfie. You have these UCam perfect apps, which even I'm guilty of using from time to time,
What is
especially
it
when
again? UCam perfect app?
yes, UCam perfect app.
Jesus,
Yeah,
God, this is.
it's so it's for people like me. For example, I'm not wearing any makeup today, but generally if I want to take a selfie or two, or when I'm just passing some time, having that little narcissistic streak, so তখন আর কি, I take a picture, and I'll just take that picture on UCam or on Instagram with the filters, and it'll look like I'm wearing makeup, and it's accentuating my features, and it's less effort for me, because I don't have to then sit and take all that makeup off, and the pictures are there, and I'm looking way better than I think I do. So it's the filter that is within us that has caused for all these social media platforms to capitalize on that, because um, the influencer culture, if I bring that up, what are we endorsing? We're all the time endorsing makeup, or we're all the time endorsing vanity, fashion. We're not actually, brave enough yet to just sit with our pimples and, say that, okay, this is me. I'm not having the best day of my life, but, I'm here. I'm on camera. I'm speaking to you, and I'm not wearing anything on my face. So, it's that attitude that has led to these filters. So,
আপনি কিছুক্ষণ আগে এডুকেশনের কথা বললেন যে as long as if we don't take the education in there. So I'll tell you, I would like to bring some examples, or looking at the education itself, that basically. So a very famous education philosopher from Brazil, Paulo Freire, he one of his most remarkable books is called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. So he problematized that education, historically, if you look at education, you will see that it always privileges one kind of knowledge, one kind of ways of being. Now, for example, you have um, gone to English medium school. Um, and I'm sure that you and I would be lying if we don't recognize that in Bangladesh, the moment you start speaking in English, automatically you are perceived to come from a certain socio-economic background. So the task of language is actually still communication. Because the selection of the language, it is creating a social hierarchy, right? Now, if we
yes.
go back, that how the hell did English get this perception that English has some kind of value over other language? Well, lo and behold, can we deny the colonial history? Because our
No, we can't.
past master were British. So the
Yes,
Brits
absolutely.
left the land, but not our minds. They left the
No.
land, but not our minds. Winston Churchill, when he was given the honorary doctorate degree from Harvard University, he had a famous, speech where he said that, the new frontier of control is not essentially the land, it is the minds of men. And that is why Winston Churchill wanted English language to be prominent. A very prominent Kenyan scholar has written a book. It's called Decolonizing Mind. If I can control your language, I can control your mind, because you
Mm.
think with language. If I can control, George Orwell has talked about it. Is that the idea of how to control language? Now, Zaina, when it comes to education, think about it. Our education says, oh, এরা হচ্ছে শিক্ষিত, এরা হচ্ছে ভদ্রলোক. When you speak in a particular dialect, when you wear a particular kind of language. Now, we are Bangalee. Lungi, Genji is our dress. This is what is us. But how many places in Dhaka, there are establishments, you cannot walk in there wearing lungi? Can you enter Shunarga Hotel wearing lungi? You will
No.
not. And let's not forget, যে Baridhara once created this, I don't know, that was so classist, that was so elitist, that they did not want the rickshaw-pullers to wear lungi and get in there. Now, you will, contest, probably, you can probably say to me that, no, our models these days are wearing lungi. But here is the thing: is that I can be wearing lungi, but my dispositions, the way I carry myself, the way I interact with you, can suffice. There's a saying in Bangla, "Chena bamuner poita lage na." Jodi, if a person who is very famous wears lungi, it's not a problem. Because like if Mark Zuckerberg wears lungi, that will become a fashion. If Bill Gates wear lungi, that will become a fashion, right? So in a case like this, how do we problematize our convention and see, this is considered to be beautiful? Where is it coming from? Is it possible? How do we problematize? আপনি কিভাবে করেন? আপনি তো you design. You are a designer. You are in the fashion world. You are, for example, you are diversifying the beauty. You are questioning. Okay, this is body type, stereotype. You are bringing those very important questions. So when you talk about these issues, how do you think it's important to bring in the conversation which dress is considered to be beautiful dress? Which makeup is considered to be beautiful makeup? Which kinds of hairdo is considered to be stylish hairdo? How do we talk about it? Sorry, আমি আপনাকে বিপদে ফেলে দিচ্ছি।
No, no, it's fine. It's fine. I wish I was actually a designer. I'm not. I produce shoots for designers, so I can speak for them. I think a little bit. Uh, I've seen that majority of the time they do take into perspective the shape of the person that they're designing for, or the kind of set of models that they would idealize their designs around. And yes, I have seen this own misogynistic approach to our own kind of attires. Like, I think it's more of a generational thing. Lungi, I've seen my dada wear it. I've never really seen my father wear it. Even if he did, he'd probably topple over and fall. It's something that I've seen my grandfather wear. And then I've seen as you mentioned, the rickshaw-pullers, people who help us, they've worn it and they still wear it. I don't think that it is now so much to do with only the generation. It is to do with, as you mentioned, the socio-economic position that we're also in. It would be highly acceptable amongst a certain crowd of people, but our own kinds of people, we probably, make fun of the person wearing a lungi right now. Like, koththeke ashcho, dadar, dada shachcho, or something like that, or driver bhaiya. We'd say these things. We're quite biased, if I may say so, towards our own kinds of fashion or our own sense of aesthetics. We are so influenced. Even our helping hands nowadays have Instagram accounts, TikTok, all those things. They are also now getting very influenced by Western sense of fashion as well. I would not be surprised if 5-10 years from now we start this whole idea of them sitting on the floor or standing over there also fades, because I have a feeling that they'll be sitting right next to us with us. That kind of evolution has started. So I think the lungi might with time fade, even in Bangladesh. Unfortunate, but that's just my observation, that I think it is on the decline now. It's slowly fading.
মানে লুঙ্গি পরাটা ফেড হয়ে যাবে, like you're saying that we will not
Yes,
be wearing lungi. Okay, okay.
I think so.
But have you মানে there's something interesting about this, is that with the globalization of fashion and design and models, let's take this comment. Actually does a wonderful job actually to problematize this. Dilara commenter is beautiful, is that it is hard to change, still the worldwide beauty contest promotes skinny type body shape. Asians promote fairness. Okay, social prejudice, cultural practice, and traditions are additional with this. Some of the recent influences in Bangladesh has made millions of Bangladeshi taka selling whitening cream. Absolutely right, Dilara. So people are buying the conventional thought that and thus it is hard. এটার সাথে একটা কমেন্ট যেটা উনি করেছেন সেটা হচ্ছে একজন মেধাবী নারী যে কিনা ফর্সা নয়, সুগঠিত স্বাস্থ্যের অধিকারী, যখন তার মেধার দাম পায় না, তখন ফেয়ার অ্যান্ড গ্লো আর স্কিনি হওয়া ছাড়া তার জন্য খুব কম অপশন থাকে। সে যেভাবে সমাজের ভ্রু কুঁচকানো মানুষগুলোকে প্রতিনিয়ত সহ্য করে সেটা কেবল সেই বোঝে। যোদ্ধা হয়ে এসব থেকে বের হয়ে এসে নিজেকে প্রমাণ করা অনেক কঠিন কাজ আর সময় সাপেক্ষ বটে। আম I mean, I don't have anything to say other than agreeing. Is that, you could be all intelligent and that Begum Rokeya in your brain, but in your body, if you are not Oishwarya Rai, you will pay the price. The society will.
আমি এখানে একটাই জিনিস অ্যাড করব, আই মিন there's a lot of hypocrisy involved in this
Mhm.
whole perception of, say for example, when we are representing gorgeous Latino American, or a black model on magazine cover, we'll share 1,000 million posts about it, that wow, she's so gorgeous, and wow this and wow that. But majority of the time you will find people who've been racist in the past endorsing even these whitening agents, whitening creams, and all these things are suddenly now, for the sake of social media's benefit, sharing and speaking about, oh, I wish I could be like her. And that element of hypocrisy is definitely there, because Aishwarya Rai, for the majority of us, is the most beautiful woman in the world. Though I disagree, I have seen others also, and that's, as you said, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So it is that level of hypocrisy, that to keep up with the trend, just because majority are saying it, I have to say it, otherwise I won't be a part of the party or something like that. So yeah, that is
এই
pretty
এই-
much.
এই- এই যে আপনি যে কথাটা বললেন যে hypocrisy, I'll bring here crowd psychology, and one of the very, very influential books in the crowd psychology is written by Gustave Le Bon. আমাদের collective behavior, how we behave in a group, is very, very different than how we behave individually. So
Yes.
let's say a very prominent sociologist, Irving Goffman, has talked about dramaturgy, front stage, backstage. আমি আপনার সাথে যখন কথা বলছি, I have to uh, put up a certain front which is socially acceptable. এখন এই যে when we talked about beauty standard, if we look into the history of beauty standard, it were actually men in the European aristocracy who used to wear makeup, who used
Yes.
to wear high heels, who used to use all the blushers and everything. It's not very far away. I mean, all you have to do is dig in the history. Is that it was men who used to wear all the makeup, blusher, high heel, pink color. But over the period of time, it has shifted from men to women. এখন যদি আমি, for example, just to do an experiment, imagine you are putting, let's say a man is wearing high heel, wearing blusher, wearing eyelash, what have you, and wearing a very gorgeous pink dress. I can imagine that if I even give you put this thought in your head, you will have a smile on your face. So basically, মানুষের তো এই বিহেভিয়ারটা যে চিন্তা করাটা তো it doesn't come naturally. We want to fit into the group. That's like we have evolved to be part of the crowd. এই একটা কোয়েশ্চেন দেখেন আপনাকে করেছে, I'm assuming, যে everyone have not charming look like you. So as like Mu who wants to polish his face as well as all want normally, what do you say about this? Do you have any suggestions? So, Zaina, everyone is not charming looking like you, and if they're not, what they can do?
Well, thank you first of all for the compliment. And second thing is, if I was somebody who would be polishing my face all the time to look the way I do, then I think I would have been able to answer this question better. But um, I think it's about just self grooming. Grooming is different from following a regime as such. Just keep yourself presentable. It's also a part of our religion, sunnah, to keep yourself clean and neat and look presentable. I think that itself would make you much more charming than you are, if you just concentrate on keeping yourself neat, clean, and uh, presentable. That's all I can say because I'm not the type of person who goes polishing her face. So
Acha. So now let us talk about. I mean, as I said in the beginning of our conversation, that we'll come back to marketing later.
yeah,
Now, let's look at the history of marketing. That basically where the marketing came from and how marketing has been used. And of course, Mani, we are having a very conscientious conversation because FlexBees
yeah,
also does a lot of marketing work for a lot of groups of people. Now, if we think about one of the most remarkable marketeers in the history is Edward Bernays.
yes,
Um, he was into shaping the minds of the mass, right? I mean,
mm,
let's say one of the marketing campaign he had was okay. Women at the time were not smoking cigarettes, so back in those time, I think it was in 1920s or 1930s, there used to be a kind of school. It's called debutante. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, where women used to go to appear appealing to their potential suitor. Is that what do you need to do to appeal to men? So that was the kind of a school they had back in those days. Well, I don't know if it is any different now. I think the debutante school has shifted from academics, some kind of training place to different. It has gone to every house. Is that this is how you convince a woman, sorry, convince a man, make a man like you. So what Bernays did, he organized a bunch of young women who were considered to be conventionally beautiful and asked these women at his sign to get a cigarette that was planted on their thighs and light the cigarette. And the message was written is that the torch of freedom. Because men can smoke. Now, these women imagine that their sensuality or their appealingness is used to promote a kind of idea that, oh, now women can also smoke cigarettes. They are equal to the men because they are also smoking cigarette. And cigarette sales went through the roof. Now let's talk about today's marketing campaign. Now, this is almost like a mind bend, like mind warp kind of thing. You have organizations like Fair and Lovely Women Foundation, a foundation that is a product that is responsible for inflicting inferiority complex different kinds of issues into millions of minds of women. Now they're also working to, I am here to help women. Now this is paradoxical, if you think critically, if you think, like, how do you make sense of it? Question to you, Zaina. Whenever we hear the word corporate social responsibility, is it actually corporate social responsibility, or it is a marketing gimmick to sell the appearance of caring for the society? I'm not saying every marketing campaigns are like that. And if you see something like that, what would you do?
when I do my campaigns, like I think I can only speak for myself because
Mm,
obviously a part of my work also involves research and it
mm,
also involves observation as to how others do it. But at the end of the day, every business is out to promote their own brand. And as for me, I think I've just gone with what instinctively feels right. So when I say, for example, I went with diversity, it was to establish the fact that all three genders are equally acceptable, and people liked that idea. Then I went with something called an ethnic campaign. Why ethnic? Because I wanted to also represent the idea that Bangladeshi fashion is sustainable, is durable, and we should support local, and we should go for something that is representing our home brands rather than international. So that was an ethnic movement that I tried to initiate. And that also was received well by the public, maybe because of how I represented my models. Sometimes I do think that, you know, um, People talk about making things out of kathas and saris, sustainable fashion, or slow fashion, if I may say so. And this is something that now is playing a huge dominant role in making the fashion industry boom in Bangladesh. Um, আগে একটা time ছিল that you wouldn't like to repeat outfits, and that was also marketed in such a way that, okay, today I'm wearing Sabia Sachi, or today I'm wearing Manish Malhotra, and now everybody is suddenly supporting local. So it's all a part of the game, a
মানে
part of
সাবিয়া সাচি এবং মানিশ মালহোত্রা দে আর মানে সাম কাইন্ড অফ এক্সক্লুসিভ ডিজাইনার, যে আমি মানিশ
yes,
মালহোত্রার একটা পাঞ্জাবি পরেছি, সো হেন্স
G.
আই অ্যাম ওকে, ওয়াও, ইন্টারেস্টিং,
Yes,
ওকে।
yes. It's all a part of how marketing has also changed over the decade. Bangladesher মানুষ এরকম ছিল, like just about 3-4 years ago. Unless you were wearing Sabia Sachi or Manish Malhotra or Ritu Kumar, you were not um, sensational enough. Now, if you suddenly take out something you wore when you were 15 years old, and you just add the hashtag sustainable fashion, slow fashion, I'm just wearing what I used to wear, it fits me, and now you've become another kind of celebrity, because it is all about keeping up with the trend. So marketeers, I have to say that they've become very clever. I'm guilty of it too. We keep up with the trends, and we do it very smoothly. We don't let the world see what we're up to.
হুম। এখানে
Yeah.
এখানে মানে what I would say, আপনি যে কথাটা প্রথমে বললেন, এডুকেশনের কথা বললেন। আমাদের the entire reason why Canada Bangladesh Social Justice Action Research Alliance works, and I have mentioned this on many occasions, that I'm a doctoral researcher, I'm a teacher, and my funding comes from Canadian government, from my university. So I don't have to be beholden to, as an action researcher, to any corporate campaigns. Ami Jodi, for example, let's say if I was sponsored by Fair and Lovely, these conversations, I would probably not be able to say what I'm saying right now. I wouldn't be able to say what I'm saying. Or let's say if I was sponsored by any group, I would have to abide. তো এই জায়গাটাতেই তো আপনার um, the corporate social responsibility is almost like, কি যেন একটা ইংরেজিতে শব্দ আছে না? যে আপনার সাউন্ডস একটা কিন্তু তার ঠিক উল্টা। ইটস
Hmm.
মিনিং ইস একদম উল্টা।
Yes, yes.
I forgot that English word. Um,
It's
একটা ওয়ার্ড আছে।
interesting. Yeah.
হুম,
It's
হুম,
interesting that you pointed out, because
হুম,
when you're sponsored by a particular brand,
হুম,
we take responsibility in the sense. Check the example.
হুম,
There was one transgender bridal series that I produced. That
হুম,
transgender brides are very beautiful, and
হুম,
they have as much right as us to be a
হুম,
part of the whole concept of marriage and the institution of marriage and relationships. So তখন আর কি 3-4 জন আমাকে স্পন্সর করেছিল at that point of time. One
হুম,
with their attires, one with shoes, one with bags, one with makeup, and one with accessories. So one or two shots didn't include bags, and they were from my sponsor.
হুম,
And I remember that I had to have a conversation with my whole team, that if once I don't look, why is it you're not featuring the brands that have sponsored us? It's our responsibility to feature them. And if
হুম,
that means reshooting for them, we've even done that. For example, the transgender series, there were batuas, local bags, they're called
হুম,
batuas. We My team at that point of time, unfortunately, failed to feature them, but it was a part of the sponsorship.
হুম,
They failed to feature them. So then next best thing I could do is do some product photography for them, complimentary. That okay, that didn't happen. Now I'm giving you something aesthetically pleasing, hopefully endorsing your brand and promoting it, and taking full accountability and responsibility for the fact that they did not, and in effect I did not feature them. So yeah, that is where that element of responsibility is, that if you cannot do what or if you cannot say what you think is favorable in the moment, try to do the next best thing. That would be my advice for corporate social responsibility.
হ্যাঁ, এই জায়গাটাতে আমি জর্জ অরওয়েলের একটা কনসেপ্ট, মানে আমি আমাদের সবাইকে অনুরোধ করবো চিন্তা করবার জন্য। সেটা হচ্ছে জর্জ অরওয়েল একটা কনসেপ্টের কথা বলেছিলেন, ডাবল থিংক।
Mhm.
যে আমরা একই সাথে আমাদের মনের মধ্যে ২ টা বিপরীতধর্মী, absolutely opposite ideas, we can hold it and believe in both of them. Double thing. Now, for example, Americans believe the idea that America is championing democracy in the world, even if it requires bombing another nation to insert democracy there, they'll do it. So let's say when the Western initiative of Middle East peace talk, it's funny, but this is something funny. The word is peace, but in the process, the military planes are dropping, bombs on those lands. Oh, we are bombing them to establish peace, right? So when it's possible for us to have two completely paradoxical, literally opposite ideas in our head and believe in both of them. For example, I mean, you probably could also help me, understand this. So during the colonial time, when there was Bengal famine going on in Bangladesh, people in Britain did not essentially know that what was going on, what East India Company was doing in Bengal. So you will see that these countries, let's say like Britain or European countries, who champion the idea of human rights or democracy or gender equality, etc., etc. But when their very countries, companies, or their government go to another country, destroy people, cause genocide, that's all right. So do you see how civilized nations, their so-called civilization, is built on the foundation of cruelty that somehow, I call this willful ignorance. So apni jokhoni, whenever you talk about education, education has always been a tool of indoctrination to make us believe in a certain way. But the
Yes.
moment, because an educated mind cannot be, enslaved, an educated mind cannot be, how do I say, brought into, আপনি যখন বললেন যে somebody was asked that question যে মানে how, I think that in order to be comfortable with in our bodies, we have very few choices other than thinking about or using our another part of our organ is our brain. As long as I'm not using my brain, doesn't matter. If I'm not using my mind, what I am in my muscle, I can have, 8 packs and, 20-inch biceps. That's not going to make me a kind, compassionate, considerate, human being if, I'm not using my mind. Unfortunately, we are heading towards, and by the way, it's nothing new. People have, intellectuals have they have foreseen it, and they have warned us. They have warned us that because of capitalistic gain, if I can't keep you unhappy, you're not going to buy things. I have to make you unhappy, and then you will go and buy makeup or something, as if putting a blusher, or I don't know, using eyelash is going to make me feel better. So এই ক্ষেত্রে, what do you suggest that what can we do to actually prioritize our mind and our brain over how we look in our body and in our muscles?
I think that we should actually promote nutrition, fitness, as opposed to just beauty,
Mhm,
because most people don't realize that nutritional guidance is essential, especially with depression. And depression can be the cause of all these insecurities.
mhm,
When you are not feeling content with your health, or your
mhm,
if you don't have enough access to even mental health counseling because it's such a taboo in society, uh, you tend to resort to all these other, products, if I may say so, that you think will help you look a certain way or will help you feel a certain way. Whereas
mhm,
no, it's probably just this hormonal imbalance that we're going through because of the lack of nutritional guidance that we have, or we don't concentrate on fitness enough. This is another aspect to consider. We are not doing justice to our body. in order to glow from within, in order to love ourselves fully and our health, to
Mhm.
look the way we actually could look. We are just resorting to chemicals, we're resorting to Instagram standards of beauty. We are taking our pictures and accentuating our body parts and trying to look a certain way. Uh, Whereas, if we actually implemented that disciplined routine into our daily lives, that, okay, get up in the morning, go for a walk or a jog. Okay, it's lockdown, don't do that. uh, you know Go and do some yoga, or implement fitness into your daily life, that after work you go, you work out, you take care of yourself, take a shower, and then you will actually start seeing results better than those products would help you. And it goes back to how nature was designed to actually make us active. We're not active enough. Even if we have the freedom, we don't choose to be active enough. So many other complications arise. And if you're speaking about women in general, more women are suffering from polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS disorder nowadays, because of the environment that they belong to, or because of
What
the
is
lack.
what is that you said? PCOS? I don't exactly know what it is.
Polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's a lifestyle disorder, basically. It's not a disease, but it is when you have cysts in your ovaries. And we have a lot of that in Bangladesh right now. I wouldn't just say Bangladesh, it's worldwide, but in Bangladesh, there are many prominent cases of PCOS, and more awareness needs to take place for that. Women tend to gain weight, or, they suddenly get a lot of facial hair, or they start feeling depressed and they start going for various beauty regimes trying to fix it, or they try to lose weight suddenly, whereas it's actually a hormonal imbalance, which can be taken care of. With all due respect, it can be taken care of with nutritional guidance, with fitness. If not fully taken care of, it can be controlled. So it's, that element of lifestyle coaching that we are not quite open to as yet. It's that um, the requisite to keep up with a disciplined routine, that we just always say can't be bothered, and we just take a very lazy approach to life, and then we whine and complain as to why we don't see changes or why we don't feel better. It has to start from within. It's the very basic things. I even tell my family, get up in the morning, have breakfast, then a few hours later have lunch, and then have dinner, and make sure you're hydrated. It's the basic human thing. If you cannot take care of those things, no amount of beauty products or fashion is going to make you feel or help you combat that. So you have to love yourself by fueling yourself with what your body and your soul really need, and that is to be active.
Thank you, Zaina. My last question to you is that Apni, I have seen that you have in the diversity campaign. Obviously, you have brought people from different strata of the society with different orientation of their gender or sexuality. Um, but when it comes to age, um, I've seen one interview of Shampa Reza where she was asked during the কি বলে COVID এর সময় যে she was asked that question that how do you maintain your fitness and youth in the time of this, and then she gave this beautiful wise answer. She said, I don't try at all to hold on to some kind of youth, the idea that we are born and we grow, you know um, বাংলায় বলে বলি রেখা, আমি ঠিক এটা ইংরেজিতে কি বলে আমি ঠিক জানি না। মানে it's like our aging and what have you. So it seems like we are racing against some kind of time that I cannot have wrinkles, I cannot have I cannot age. When I say I mean us. So what do you think, do you think that our um, fashion, design, marketing, what have you, uh, they are thinking that there is a ageist attitude towards beauty standard, that youth is beautiful and as you age your life is worthless?
Not always. Not always. Even in Bangladesh, because we have
Mm.
beauty icons like Joya Ahsan, for example. She looks very young, very youthful. A lot of people aspire to look like her. And with all due
কিন্তু
respect, she
জয়
does
হাসান, সরি, জয় হাসান কিন্তু ইয়াং লুকিং, মেবি শি ইজ,
young looking.
হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু
Yes,
আমাকে
yes.
ইয়াং লুকিং হতে হবে কেন? Maybe that, let's say, I know I am I am in my 50s.
Hmm.
I should be okay looking like 50s. Why do I have to look like Joya Hassan?
She is often used as an example of age is just a number. Look at Joya Hassan. That's why I pick,
But it's
chose
again
her because
pressure. It's again a pressure. It's like
hmm,
আমার যদি চুল পেকে যায় আমাকে চুল কালার করতে হবে কেন? Why?
না করতে হবে না, অবশ্যই করতে হবে না, বাট এটা আমার মা যেরকম বলে যে আমার বয়স হচ্ছে আমার লুকানোর কি আছে। আর আমরাই বরঞ্চ we tell her যে just color your hair, you'll look younger, you're so beautiful as you are, why don't you just do this? And so I'm guilty of doing that myself. So I remember just a few months ago when I was producing a TV show, the person I was working with, and someone else, the founder of the channel, she was asking us that why don't you bring prominent guests, like Joya Ahsan, who's like the youth icon. And I asked her, why is she the youth icon? She says, because she's so young looking and we should, take tips from her as to how she looks the way she does. And that's something that stayed with me, that, why is it that, Jennifer Lopez in the West um, is the ideal body that, we all want? Why is it, not many people know her, Raquel Welch? Why is she the epitome of beauty and sensuality? And why is Joya Ahsan the youth icon, whereas she's of a different generation? So these are perceptions that are embedded within us. Uh, us women, we tend to be more judgmental
But
amongst
they're socially
ourselves.
constructed, right? But they're socially
Yes,
constructed. They're not
yes,
natural.
absolutely. No, 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 they're
Mm-hmm.
not. They're not. I mean, what might be beautiful to you might not be beautiful to me. And it was very interesting that, when you spoke about beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. I remember having this conversation with a close friend of mine back in the day that, okay, if beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, it's to do with the taste. Now you tell me, is taste consistent? What I like today, I might not like 8 or 9 years from now, and so on and so forth. It's a part of, one's individuality and the growth that takes place in between. And sometimes, and more often than not, tastes change. So ageism, yes, it is a factor in Bangladesh. And not just Bangladesh, we all tend to, oh, I'm so old to do this or that or that. We tend to subject ourselves to it more than how people subject us to it. We give people the opportunity to actually be ageist because we ourselves think, oh, আমার বয়স বেশি হয়ে গেছে, I can't do it. You know, I myself sometimes I think I can't do stuff that I used to do when I was 18, and that was just a decade ago. So if I myself treat myself that way, obviously someone else will do it as well, because it's how
Absolutely.
you represent yourself gives the others leverage or the privilege to treat you the same way.
Absolutely. Zana, thank you very much, for joining us in this conversation. We look forward to have similar conversations in the future. Love to see that how your ideas of social commitment or conscientious marketing actually unfold. With that, আমাদের সাথে এতক্ষণ যারা ছিলেন, thank you very much for listening to us and be part of this conversation. Zana, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. It was my honor and privilege. Thank you.
Pleasure. ভালো থাকবেন, বাই।
Allah.